parsha, or rather the second of the two parshas this week, Parshas Maseh, begins with the Torah detailing the 42 destinations that the Jews traveled in the desert from the time they left Egypt up until the time they entered the Holy Land, Eretz Yisrael. So the Torah teaches us all about their travels, and Rashi points out the reason for all of this, and he quotes this parable about this story with this man that took his son that was ill to a famous physician in a faraway land. And they were seeking medical assistance from this physician, and with God's help, the child was cured after the physician had cured him. So on the way back, they were traveling along the route that they had come, and the dad pointed out to his son, "See, son, in that particular place, that's where you had a high fever. Son, that's where you're so dehydrated. That's where you weren't feeling well." And so too, the Torah teaches us in this week's parsha, as now that we're at the end of our journey, about to enter the land of Israel, God's pointing out, guys, remember this when you had the golden calf. That's when you had a failing with the golden calf. This is when you had the failure of the spies. This is where you had the failure with Korach. And it seems to be an odd statement for God to make at the end of this 40-year journey, that this is where you had all of your failures. And what's the point of that? It's just trying to pour salt in old wounds. And I think this teaches us a great lesson in life, and that is that we all have our shares of successes and failures. Nobody in this world is perfect. And because we are imperfect people, we commit our share of failures. The question, though, is how do we react to those failures? Can we transform them into teachable moments where we can learn from them and grow from them, so in the future we can become more successful in that regard? And the wise people are able to do that. They're able to look at their failings and learn from them for the future. And in fact, the greatest people have achieved the greatest things have said, I failed and I looked at that and I learned my lesson, and because of that I became successful. And that is exactly what the Jews were told as they concluded their 40-year journey in the desert. Yes, you've had your failings. Yes, you've had your story with the golden calf. Yes, you've had your story with Korach. Yes, you had your story with the spies. But you know what? Learn from your mistakes. Transform those mistakes into tomorrow's successes. And if you're able to do that, that will be better for the long term. Folks, throughout our lives we have our share of letdowns and failings. Let us remember the story of this week's parsha, and let us remember how we can transform failures into successes. Have a wonderful Shabbat.